The 12 Days of Restless. Day 11.
We are coming around the bend. We are coming right into the end of the 12 Days of Restless.
Man, it's kind of sad, isn't it? I mean, it's sad
is.
that we're not going to have this anymore. You're not going to get to hang out with us every day. Every day you've gotten to listen to us.
Because we released the Deacon of God, which if at this point you have not purchased it here as we come to the second to the last day, what's wrong with you people? I don't know why you're clapping. I'm talking about you.
How dare you?
How dare you? Go. It's in the link.
Hard. Go hard.
I'm not going to tell you why you should get it again. Just go into this link, spend $2.99, get a Reformed Guide to Government. Because today we're coming to the end and we are going to do a reaction to JD Greer, a certain making of New Calvinism himself. I remember when I picked up his book, Stop Asking Jesus Into Your Heart, and I was like, oh, that's such a great title. Well, the book was not that helpful for me. I was like, I can't wait to learn about the Reformed way of thinking about evangelism, and it really fell flat for me. It didn't fall flat with most people. I think that book sold very well, and he became the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And so, Pastor Michael, today we are going to be reacting to a clip of JD Greer. I don't know why I had this, but I've had this clip saved for a long time. And while we were clearing out,
so we are both going in blind.
We are going in blind. It's a clip curated by someone who you either love or hate on the internet, the woke preacher clips guy. And the title of this video is this the worst teaching of Luke 12:13 through 21 ever? So we kind of know where he's going with it, but we're going to think about it ourselves. So Pastor Michael, would you read those 9 verses in case we don't know what those 9 verses are?
Yeah, so I was just pulling those up. So this is the parable of the rich fool. So it says, someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.'"
Man, those are great verses.
Yeah, great passage.
And I guess we're gonna probably not listen to some great teaching on it, but I guess
we'll find out. I don't know. It might be. It's Winsome Winter, Matt. You have to go in. You have to go into this thinking
winsome.
JD Greer could have purchased a very nice sermon on this topic.
Hashtag docent group. Here we go. Oh, sorry. We have text here that I guess I have to read. In this message during the run-up to the 2020 presidential election, Summit Church's JD Greer puts a political spin on a story of Jesus warning 2 brothers fighting over their inheritance. Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
I want to take you to a moment in Jesus' life that I've talked about recently, and I'm going to lay out a case from it, a very brief one, for why the church, the institutional church, should avoid getting entangled in the political specifics.
I'll say one thing here. Woke Preacher Clips guy, we didn't need that music. We didn't need the snazzy music.
The nice elevator music.
Yeah. So here we go. Why the church should not get involved with political disputes.
Practice of justice. Here's a situation in Luke 12. Jesus is asked to adjudicate a particular social justice complaint. There's a younger brother who is accusing the older brother of leveraging his older brother privilege to cheat him out of his rightful inheritance. And let me just say, scholars tell us that was a legitimate problem in ancient Israel. This is a legitimate social justice complaint. Now, if you know anything about the life and ministry of Jesus, you know that Jesus cares about injustice. Like I told you, over 200 times in the Old Testament, it tells us that God cares about this. And Jesus, being the Son of God, he cares about it. In his sermons, Jesus frequently condemned greedy exploitation, which would certainly be at work.
So, Pastor Michael, so what are we getting here? We're getting JD Greer is saying that Jesus is choosing to stay out of what would be a legitimate social justice complaint, which is the words he's using, a legitimate issue of a civic issue of the day, right? He is staying out of judging which brother is involved in this.
Yeah. What's interesting so far is just that JD Greer, and this is what I mean. This is so common. This is so common. But he starts with the church should stay out of political entanglements.
Yep.
And then we're going to use modern, kind of socio-political terms to explain what's going on in this text.
Jesus is doing something that would have
older
been
brother privilege. And come on, man.
Jesus is doing something that would have been completely explicable to political Twitter today.
Yeah, right. Right.
No. And again, I don't know where this is going, but so far, sick burn on everyone who didn't love this is the argument of the Southern Presbyterians, by the way. Don't get into these kinds of political issues. And I gotta imagine if this is the woke preacher clips, I gotta imagine this isn't going to be his position, because that's not what the woke generally want from us. So far, I don't know where we're going with this.
Particularly by the powerful against the weak, those in positions of power who do not use their positions of power to lift up others who are less privileged than them. Jesus says in Luke 16, they're dangerous.
And you're not driving, and it's a nice evening, and that's how you enjoy Restless. Or you're doing the dishes, and that's when you enjoy Restless. Feel free to play the privilege drinking game that every time you hear that word on this podcast, just take a swig.
Hellfire, regardless of how fervent they are in their religion. Right? We just saw this in the parable in Luke 10, where Jesus says that his followers are responsible to address injustice, even if they had no part in the injustice. So can we suffice it to say Jesus cares about injustice? That's not in question.
Okay,
either.
so he is starting with Jesus cares about injustice. That is true. Right, Pastor Michael?
Yeah, great. Okay.
Bible...
obviously, the language that he is using makes me uncomfortable, right?
Oh, of course.
He's using language that, of course, he's going to say, well, I'm being apolitical. The church shouldn't get involved in politics. But I'm going to use all of this language
the most political language
associates with one particular side of a very heated political debate right now.
I'm going to use the most political language I can to say that I'm not being political. Now,
yep. And how common is this? Man, this happens all the time. And part of me thinks that they're unaware that they're doing this, but I also think that probably some of them know what they're doing, right? Some of them know, but I think a lot of these guys actually think what they're doing is apolitical.
I don't know. I think the guys at Docent Research Group are pretty smart, right? We're not sorry. We're not sorry.
We're not sorry.
But no, I think you're right. I do think that we'll see, right? If this becomes an argument, I think you're right. If this is just the parlance of the day, again, our language is so focused on politics that we view everything that way, because we are in the secular day where that is our religion. And so that is how we talk. If I want to discuss something in ultimate terms with you, it must be done in a political
because
way.
That is what is most ultimate, right?
Yeah. So Jesus cares about injustice. No arguments from me, except for all the things Pastor Michael said, because I'm being wisdom. I'm with you, JD. All aboard. I don't know if that was exactly the point of the Good Samaritan parable in Luke 10, but you know what? I'm with you. Jesus.
So far, we agree on the principle of the spirituality of the church.
And we agree that Jesus condemns injustice. Basically, That's where we're at halfway through this clip. Let's see where it goes next.
But what you see, watch this. Instead of giving a specific, you might even say political answer to this question, Jesus withholds his opinion. He says rather starkly, verse 14, "Man, who appointed me a judge or arbiter over you?" In this situation, the verses after it, you'll see he preaches a little mini sermon that warns both brothers about the idolatry of money.
That's right, slaveholder. Who appointed me as judge over you? That's right, police officer. Who appointed the church as someone who should say anything? I I think I know where this is going now that Jesus withheld his opinion. I think is an interesting statement. But what is undeniable is that the Christians and the church actually not saying anything about these things is not what people really want. It might be what should be done. I'm not debating that. We need to see where this goes before I say that. But that is not what people want. And we will go back to this passage if it turns the way I think it is.
You see, had Jesus adjudicated this case, he would have cut off half of his audience. And Jesus had been sent to seek and save the lost on all sides of these issues. So Jesus showed restraint in adjudicating the particulars of this case so that he could preach the gospel to both of them, to all of them.
Here we go. So is what Jesus did in this passage. So I assume what we're getting now is Jesus didn't answer the question because he didn't want to cut off the differing political views of his day so that they would be ready to hear the gospel. Is that what Jesus is doing in this passage?
Yeah, I don't think so. So
No.
I mean, it makes it very clear. So by the way, if you want to check out a sermon on this, Pastor Jim, the senior pastor here at Christ Covenant, did preach on this at some point. I can't remember exactly when it was, but we preached through the parables this past year. And so if you want to check that out, go to ccc-pca.org. You can find a good sermon on this parable.
Send me the link and I'll put it in our show notes.
Yeah, I'll try to even find it right now so I don't forget, because I will forget if I wait. But I'll look that up. But very clearly, Jesus sees what's going on, and he sees that there is a covetous heart behind these things, as Jesus often does, and as the parables often do. Jesus sees that there is an issue at play that needs to be dealt with that is deeper than the mere question that's being asked.
Yes.
This is just like the rich young ruler, right? Like,
yes.
I've done everything, right? What more is there for me to do? And Jesus can see the heart, and he loves people. He knows their heart better. And he usually responds with something that is not a direct yes or no kind of a thing to their question. Rather, he takes what they're asking and actually frames it in the way that it should be, so that they actually understand what's going on at a deeper heart level. And so the idea that you would then take that and make it something else, you can just tell that what's going on is you have this narrative and you're jumping into the text with it. You're using the text to talk about something that you want to talk about instead of following what the text is actually talking about.
Right. I do. Again, the way Jesus answers with a question, man, who made me judge or arbiter over you? Jesus always responds with a question. It's a very characteristic thing of him. And I know that it's often talked about that it's a very, it's also kind of a Hebraic way of doing dialogue. But he always asks questions like this. And I think that there's potential place in this text for us to talk about Jesus actually did not come in order to be involved in the Jewish system, in this legal system. And I think that there is a potential application for the non-political nature of what Jesus is doing. Why? Because if I'm going to give an answer, and again, please listen to this sermon because it's going to be much better than what I'm saying. Jesus didn't come to bring a political answer to inheritance questions in first century Jerusalem. He came to fix the hearts of people. So why? So Jesus sees through it, but he's not saying, I'm not going to talk about this because I know I need them to, I need everyone to be willing to listen to me. Right. In fact, the story he tells would be much more offensive. Right? Like, hey, your covetous heart, you're a fool. Your soul will be demanded of you. Pastor Michael, I don't know about you, but if I asked someone a question like this, if I asked you a question like this, hey, I am in a dispute with my sister over something that's from our family. And you go, I don't know why you'd come with me with this. Can I tell you a story about a rich man who wanted more and more, and then he died and was a fool and went to hell? Yeah. I don't think I would go away and be like, wow, I'm so glad he didn't answer my question directly, but instead confine me to the fires of hell for this foolishness. No. All right. Sorry, JD. It might not
Also, funny story. I just looked it up. I actually preached on this.
Okay,
This
even
happens,
better.
by the way. This happens when you just like when you're preaching for a certain amount of time, you start forgetting. I was thinking of a conversation I did have with the senior pastor of our church about this, but it was probably when we were preparing it because I
Sure.
was going to preach it. And so, so anyway, you can find. I'll put a link. I sent you a link that you can put in the show notes.
Great.
Following him, the institutional church shows restraint in adjudicating the particulars of political and social questions. I mean, which policies or which candidates best get the job done, which strategies work best, because our commission in the local church is to preach the gospel to everybody.
So that is his point. In the end, the church should not make political statements about specific political issues, because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to preach the gospel. To which I say the Deacon of God may have you rethink that position, where the Reformed writers in their confessions included statements about the civil government, included statements about what you should do. And obviously, in JD Greer, if this is leading up to some election, he's saying the church shouldn't be saying what you should do in this election. Shouldn't be saying, and I think that there is, again, I think that there is a point to this fact that the church is not here primarily for public policy decisions.
Yeah. So
or
the primary,
elections.
like the primary place of the church is not to host patriotic rallies
Right.
where they invite former presidents and it's all like eagles and American flags and all of this. It's not wrong for a Christian to be patriotic, but it can be said that the mission of the church is not political.
The specific mission of the church,
Yes.
not individual Christians, not
Right,
Christians
yeah,
in a country.
not Christians, because as we've talked about, like we as people, we live in two kingdoms, right? As Christian,
Yep.
we are in the kingdom of this world as well. Like you cannot divide these things to such an extent that you say, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm outside of what happens in an election or something like that. No, it still matters. It's still important. And there's biblical principles and truths that the church can teach us about these things.
Yes.
But it is not to say that the church should be a place where you hold political rallies where it's all about holding up particular candidates or something like that. That can be really problematic.
Right. And again, I think that this tactic is so wrong, because again, where it leads to is, so what should the church do? Let's follow Jesus's model here in this nice parable. Okay, so you're right. The job of the church isn't to figure out the best way to, administrate a government, right? Or handle inflation, right? Yeah, actually, let me instead tell you a story about, a person who led children to slaughter and is now burning in hell. Oh, sorry, that's not popular. What the church should do, what the church can do, what church has been given the right to do by Jesus, is to preach the moral principles, to preach the gospel, to preach at the hearts of the people, right? It might not be the church's jobs, if we're going to look at the old spirituality of the church, why that was bad, because they said it's not the church's job to end the political institution of slavery. Well, it would then be the church's job to preach against any racial vainglory, any mistreatment of a person, the full dignity of every single human being. The church should say all of those things. The church in our day should speak as the Deacon of God shows, should tell the civil magistrate that it is a deacon of God. It is here to be a servant of God. And now it serves God in a different way than the church does. And the church is not over this deacon. No, but Jesus Christ is.
Yeah. So there is something to be said in this arena in this way. And just again, it's this way of talking that comes across as disingenuous, because you start by saying, let me use all of these very clear, this clear language that everybody listening will align with one or another kind of political movement in our country, and then tell you that you're not supposed to do anything or think anything political. It feels disingenuous.
So yeah, that actually makes me realize that the two things. This is actually unintentionally kind of a sick burn on Democrats, because he's saying stop arguing public policy with Democrats in the church so we can preach the gospel to those lost people.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, that's kind of what this is. Hey, we're not going to discuss that you all should not be Democrats because we want to preach the gospel to those lost people. That's like, that's a sick burn.
Yeah.
But here's the other problem with it. In this, we need to show restraint. We need to not speak to these things, right? And the weird thing is he's saying this is a matter of justice and injustice, and we should not say anything about it. If the word of God has given you, right, if the word of God had actually given clear statements about these things, it's not that Jesus doesn't have the right and the wisdom to see into a person's heart and actually confront that. That's obviously what he's doing. But as the church, if there are issues of justice and injustice, good and evil, we should say that there are those things. And because even though JD Greer is one of the Calvinist guys, he rode the Calvinist wagon to the top of the SBC. This is a very un-Calvinist take on preaching the gospel. We should not say certain things the word of God says. Now, again, is it just our opinions, right? How far do we want to get here? But right, with how he couches it, that these are questions of justice and injustice. If we want to say the church should not speak to certain things so that people will listen to the gospel, that is not a Calvinist point of view on human will, right? People don't. This is the human will is lost. It's chained. It needs the gospel, and it needs the law of things it likely doesn't want to hear to be converted. And it's not our job to, right, the message crafting of this is not a reformed way of talking about conversion.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, there's more that could be said, but a lot of it probably has been said when it comes to issues of politics in the church. And so you can find it. The Deacon of God, that, this 12 days of Restless is over, but you can still enjoy one more gift if you have not bought it. Or if you want to buy one of these books and send it on over to JD Greer, you're more than welcome to do that. Send him a copy of this. I don't even care if you pirate this and send it to him. You can go ahead and do that, but it's only $2.99. So why not just buy two? Use it that way. We hope this has been helpful. We hope it's been enjoyable. We've enjoyed spending time with you over these 12 days. There is more Restless to come. We're just getting started, but we probably won't be going daily for a little while again.